In the pilot episode of Momdates, I mentioned to you guys that what was important to me was showing up. That might be with a full face of makeup, dressed, all glam and everything. And on some days, it could be me without makeup, wearing my husband's robe and just here chatting away. Today just happens to be one of those days where I just can't be asked, okay, to put on makeup. So this is me showing up as promised. Hey, my loves, welcome to Momdates. Did you know that in ancient times, what we now know as C-section was a procedure performed to save a child from a dying mother or dead mother? And even on such occasions, the child rarely survived. But with the evolution of science and medicine, things like anesthesia, antibiotics to prevent infection after the procedure has been performed has come about, and we now have the C-section being performed on living women, and then we have mother and child alive and well after the cesarean section procedure has been carried out. Imagine getting pregnant in those times. Like, it was almost like a death sentence. All you would just be doing is praying to whatever you believe in that you don't run into any kind of complications, because if you do, that's the end for you. I shudder to think of if there was nothing like a C-section when I had my baby. I probably would not be here sitting down today. Baby Heaven would probably not be here. It's crazy to think about. Let me tell you guys my C-section story. So before I had a baby, my birth plan was to have a vaginal birth, and that's exactly what I went for. But then we, ran into some complications, and the doctor suggested that we go in for an emergency C-section. So the first thing that happened after that was said was, we had to fill out a form giving consent to what was about to happen. So I was made to fill out a form. My husband was also made to fill out a form, basically agreeing to the fact that we were about to have surgery in order to bring our baby into the world. I also had to give verbal consent. So someone was there to ask me, oh, what's your name? Do you know what's about to happen? Do you agree? Just to make sure that I was in my right senses when everything was about to go down, and I approved of what was about to happen to me. After that happened, Ilo had to go sort out all the bills. Like I said in my last video, you have to pay before the operation commences. So once the formalities were out of the way, immediately they swung into action. First thing that was done was they brought a catheter. Now, I've heard of a catheter, but I've never ever seen one or used one. So they brought a catheter. It was pretty simple. They just, put it up my hoo-ha, and it connected straight to my bladder and drained all my urine. And then they proceeded to take off all my jewelry. So all my earrings, whatever it is I was wearing, they took it off and put it in a bag. And then I was wheeled from the labor room into the theater. Everything I'm saying happened really, really quickly. Everybody was on it because it was an emergency situation. Now, the way labor works, it's almost involuntary. Like, the moment it is time for you to push, whether you're ready or not, your body tries to push. It's like you're about to take this huge shit. Now, because I've been trying to push out the baby before I was then told to go for a C-section, I was still pushing. Even when I was being wheeled into the theater, while I was in the theater, I was still pushing. The doctors and everybody were telling me, oh, madam, stop pushing. But I kept telling them, look, it is not like I can't help it. Like, I'm just pushing involuntarily. Even when I try to hold it, I am still pushing. Now, that went on until I was then administered anesthesia. Now, this anesthesia was administered in my spine, and I was numb from my waist down. Now, once that happened, the urge to push stopped immediately. Like, I could not feel anything from my waist down. I was even told to try and move my legs or wiggle my toes, and I could not. I had no control, like zero control whatsoever of my movement from my waist down to my legs. Now, as soon as that happened, a cloth was put in front of me to separate my face and my head from the surgeons and what was about to happen down there. Obviously, I was the only one wheeled into the operating room, and my husband was outside. I remember I just kept saying, please get my husband, please get my husband, please get my husband. They just kept calming me down, like, oh, he's coming. But regardless, they started without him. I later found out that he was, gearing up, because you can't just come into the labor room without putting on your well, he was wearing like a whole coat, like a blue Macintosh, stuff to cover his hair, cover his hands, just covered himself up basically before he was able to enter inside the theater. He eventually came as they were starting. So I remember like when he came in, I was like, did you see anything, honey? He was like, yes. So obviously he saw when they had opened me up. And so the surgery started. As soon as the surgery started, I feel like my baby came out in 2 seconds. Bear in mind, I had been laboring for 12 hours. I had tried to push for almost an hour. Nothing happened. So in less than 5 minutes, my baby was out. Maybe not 5 minutes, say maximum 10 minutes, my baby was out. When I heard her cry, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, she's here? Like, that's it? And then they brought her to me. They had obviously wiped her down a little, brought her to me. I was like, yeah, confirm that she's a girl. I did that. Now, the baby coming out took lesser time than it took to actually stitch me back up. Now, stitching me back up took more time than, let's say, bringing the baby out took about like 5-10 minutes. Stitching me back up took 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so they took their time. At this point, as soon as the baby came out, I told my husband to just, go with the baby. Like, don't worry, I'll be fine. Like, I had heard too many horror stories about swapping babies in the hospital that I just didn't want to take any chance. I was just like, leave me here. I'll be fine. Follow the baby, okay? Just go and make sure that that's our baby and she's okay. It was a Sunday morning at around 7:05. We were the only ones who had a baby in the hospital that morning, but I just wasn't taking any chances. I laid on that operating table for what felt like forever, okay? But it was about 15 to 20 minutes while they stitched me back up. So because they already had my records, they had checked the blood bank to be sure that they had enough blood in my blood type ready in case I lost too much blood. Thankfully, I didn't. Once they were done with the operation, they carried me up from the operating table onto the hospital bed where I was then wheeled into the recovery room. If you've seen my birth vlog, you would see, well, at this point, my mom came in finally to see me and she was just crying. It was such an emotional moment for the both of us. It was the most traumatizing couple of hours of my life because just so much happened that were just so jarring. And because I had no idea what went into the whole process of having a C-section, everything just kept coming like blows and punches, like blow after blow after blow, like this is gonna happen and that is gonna happen, and I just did not even know, and I was not ready for any of it. So the shock plus the actual event happening, everything together was just a lot. So my mom came in, congratulated me. This was around like say 8 a.m. in the morning. I asked, where's my baby? And they were like, oh, she's fine. She's just getting some aftercare right now. Nurses are conducting some checks on her. And I was like, okay. I also forgot to mention that as soon as I was wheeled into the recovery room, they wore compression socks on my legs. I was hooked onto like IV drips, painkillers. The blood pressure monitor was hooked onto me, basically checking my blood pressure every 10 minutes. Like it was going off every 10 minutes, checking my blood pressure to make sure that nothing was going crazy there. At this point, I still couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel anything from my waist down to my legs at this point. So the anesthesia was still very much in effect. And that compression socks is pretty hard to get on your legs because it's very tight. So while I was laid there, my mom had obviously congratulated me. She was like, oh, can I tell people now that you've given birth? And I was like, please go ahead, do what you gotta do. And while she was there, she started calling everybody, Obi Mom. That basically means, for my non-Yoruba speaking people, it means Obi has given birth. My Igbo name is Obi. I swear to God, I just had mixed emotions. Like I just felt like there was so much going on around me. The nurses were tending to the baby. My mom was calling the family. Ilo was calling our friends. And I was just there, like I could not move. Like I was hooked onto all these machines and I couldn't even do anything if I wanted to. Like I was just laid there, like staring at the ceiling and just willing myself to be happy, even though like all these things just happened. Through all of this, my catheter was still in place. After a while, they came, to change the catheter. It was full of urine at this point. I couldn't even go to the bathroom to ease myself if I wanted to. So it made sense that they had put a catheter in me before the surgery. Also at this point, I had started bleeding. Bear in mind that this bleeding is different from period. Like it is not like period or anything. Usually after you have a baby, there will be bleeding for a couple of days, and it's just basically what's left of just what's left in your uterus just coming out. So at this point, I was bleeding, and they had put in, pads and everything. Let's note the timeline in all of this. So I had a baby at around past 7 in the morning. Everything was done before 8 a.m. I was built into the recovery room. So from 8 a.m. till the next day, I wasn't able to eat anything. I wasn't able to brush my teeth. I wasn't able to shower or anything. I just was laying on my back. I couldn't even get a good sleep because what's it called? The blood pressure machine just kept going off every 10 minutes. And you know how the blood pressure machine goes, like it literally goes, like it tightens your arm for like a good 5 to 10 seconds before it starts to release slowly, 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 slowly. So yeah, that was annoying. At this point, the care and everything that concerned Heaven was, my husband, my mom, and the nurses were the ones in charge of everything concerning her care. And that's why I said that you need help. If you don't have help, please hire one, because if I did not have help, I don't know what I would have done. So at around like say 9 p.m., I was tired of laying on my back. I remember telling the nurse at the time, like I was like, can I turn to my side? And I could see that she wanted to laugh at me, but she was like, yeah, go ahead, try. You can turn if you want to. When I tell you, I tried to turn to my side, but I just could not seem to be able to. It just wasn't happening. So I gave up. I was like, I guess I can't. It's just not happening. So later that night, a nurse came in and told me that, oh, tomorrow morning, you're going to have to get up from your bed and walk around a little bit. It will help with your recovery. And I was just like, oh, thank God. Like, I'm so happy. I'm so tired of laying on this bed. I'm looking forward to it. So I went to bed, wake up in the morning. In fact, she woke me up in the morning. The nurse that had come to inform me the night before that we're going to be walking, she came in and woke me up at around like say 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. She came in with like my soap, my sponge. She bathed me on the bed. It wasn't really much of a bath. It was more of like cleaning. So she obviously used soap, washed my body first, and then used like water on a rag to wipe me down. So she did what she could do. But it was still something, so I was grateful. So this lady then goes, it's time to walk. Let's say this lady's name is Esther. Ah, God, every time I remember this day, I laugh. It was not funny at the time, but now, in hindsight, it is kind of funny. The hospital bed I was in was one of those ones where you click a button and the back of the bed comes up, it can go down, however way you want it. Bear in mind, I was laid flat on my back at this point. So after she had cleaned me up and, done all that needed to be done, it just made me feel like a human being again. She then was like, are you ready? And I was like, yes, let's do it. And so she clicked on the button and the bed started to come up. At this point, bear in mind that all the anesthesia had worn off. So I could feel my legs again. I could feel the incision. I could feel the pain. Everything hurt like a bitch. So she hit the button and the bed started to come up slowly. As the bed started to come up slowly, it felt like my insides were made of rocks, like big, heavy, painful stones, and it felt like they were dropping. It was the most earth-shattering pain I had ever felt in my life. Thank God I even asked for her name that morning, like when she came in. I was like, hi, what's your name? She's like, Esther. Okay, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. And I literally started screaming, Esther, 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 stop, 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 stop. Like, just stop the bed from moving. Like, just stop. Because it felt like something was going on inside there and it was horrible and it was painful. To cut the long story short, okay, it took about 10 minutes to get that bed from a flat position to a straight position where my back was like this, basically how I am sitting. So imagine being laid on a bed and my legs are on the bed, but my back is straight like this. So it took about 10 minutes to get into that position because I kept on telling her, go, stop, press, stop, stop, let's do it, let's go, stop. because it's just really painful. It was just really painful. We did that dance for like 10 minutes and I was finally able to sit up, to like lay up straight like this. And then it was time for me to put my legs on the floor and then get up from the bed. To cut the long story short, because again, I don't want to start going into all the painful details. But it took me about, no word of a lie, it took me about 20 minutes. Right now, let's say you ask me to stand up. Right? 1 second. I'm up from the chair, like I'm up. This thing that I just got up in a second took me about 10 minutes to do. Or even more. Like, she had to hold me. And I had to hold on for dear life. And before I could get up from that bed, I don't even know how to describe the pain. The pain is nothing I can describe. And nothing prepared me for that pain. Like I said, I had no idea what went on in the cesarean section. I had no idea. It was after the facts that I started hearing of, oh, that first walk is insane. I had no idea what a first walk was. So I wasn't even ready. I was happy when she came to tell me, oh, we're going to be taking a walk in the morning. I did not know that she came to warn me that something is about to happen in the morning. Girl, be prepared. I thought I was about to just get up and walk as I normally did. Obviously, I was still under the effect of the anesthesia. I wasn't feeling that much pain. So I thought that was how it was going to continue to be. But no, the anesthesia wore off and shit got real. Okay. And the pain came at me like bam. So it took all of 10 minutes to get up from that bed. And I felt like a kid learning to walk again. It felt like every step I took, my intestines were about to fall off. If you are a woman who has had a baby via C-section, let me know in the comments so it doesn't sound like I'm overreacting or I'm here making up stories. Did you feel that way? Did that happen to you? Because that was how it felt for me. Every step I took, it just felt like my insides were about to fall out of my stomach. So I was able to take all of 4 to 5 steps before I was like, you know what, I'm done. Please just take me back to the bed. Let me go back and lay down. And the nurse was like, oh no, you're not going back to lay down. You have to sit down. So we went back and I sat on a wheelchair. It was the wheelchair I sat where I was then able to brush my teeth. Ice cubes were brought. I was able to chew some ice cubes. The ice cubes actually really, really helped. Like they really, really helped cool my insides. So yes, I was able to chew ice cubes while on the wheelchair. At this point, my mom had come in the room and she was just there praying because obviously everything was coming as a shock to her as well. And then she brought heaven to me again and I wasn't even able to carry her because I was in so much pain. Bruh, I was discombobulated. And that's why I said in my last video, like, you're probably not going to feel all the lilies and roses immediately because you will be going through so much shit yourself. You won't really be in la la land like, oh my god, I just had a baby, the most precious thing. You know how you see to movies now. It might happen for some people, obviously, but it doesn't always happen. It didn't happen for me. Like at that point, because obviously it was my first child and everything that had happened was just jarring. I wasn't feeling very, very much in cloud nine or anything. I was just like, oh my god, what is going on? What is going on? Is this a dream? Is this my life? Is this really happening? Anyway, I was on the wheelchair. I ate the ice, brushed my teeth, changed from the robe I was wearing the previous day into a new robe, and then I was wheeled into the ward. The ward is basically where you can then obviously receive visitors and just, be under observation. The hospital kept me under observation for 2 to 3 more days before I was discharged. So I was then wheeled into my ward and then I had to then stand up from the wheelchair and sit on the bed. Okay. You see that whole process of standing up, sitting on the bed, laying on the bed. If you ask me to stand up now, sit on the bed, it would probably take me all of 10 seconds. That whole thing took me about 10 minutes again. Everything was, I made a video talking about this a couple months ago and I said that there is nothing easy about bringing a child into this world, you would go through one shaggy or the other. It is nothing like you see in movies where the baby is here. Lies. So it was while I was in that ward that I was able to receive my guests. My friends and family members came to see me. Again, in my last video, I mentioned that I would not be doing that when I have my next child because God knows I was going through it. At this point, like I said, I had taken out the catheter. So every time I felt like easing myself, I had to do that dance of getting myself up from the bed, standing up, walking to the toilet, struggling to sit on the toilet seat. Everything was just freaking painful. So the thing about like having a C-section is that you have to avoid the area so it doesn't get infected. And because obviously at this point I couldn't bend, I couldn't do anything myself, there had to be a nurse coming to bathe me and make sure that there wasn't water touching the area. One thing that helped and sort of gave me hope was that one of my friends that came to say hi to me at the hospital, she had had a C-section 4 or 5 months prior to me having mine. And so when she came to greet me, she looked great. Like she looked like nothing had happened. She looks exactly how I look right now. She looked fine, okay? And I just kept asking her like, did you go through all this? And she was like, yep, she did. Like, and this is her now. Like she's completely fine. Just hang in there. You'll be fine. So that helped me a lot. Just seeing someone who had gone through the same thing, because we human beings, when we're going through things sometimes, we tend to act like it's the end of the world. But to be honest, it's not our fault because it sometimes feels like the end of the world. Like sometimes we just can't look past that discomfort we are feeling in that moment. It just feels like that is all there's ever going to be for us. And I'm not gonna lie, in that moment, it felt like that was all there ever was going to be for me. Like I just could not see anything past the way I was feeling. So seeing her, who had gone through the exact same thing that I was going through 4 months later or 5 months later in her case, looking like she did before, looking great, looking good, and her telling me, you know, don't worry, hanging there, you'll be fine, gave me a bit of hope. A bunch of doctors came in the next day to check the site of the incision, cleaned it, changed the dressing, everything that happened. And then thankfully, I think by the 3rd day, I was discharged. To be honest, on the day I was discharged, I was so scared because at the hospital, we had that bed where if I'm laying down and I want to come up, I could press a button and it would bring me up, and you know, it just made coming out of the bed to go ease myself easier. I knew that in my house I don't have that kind of bed, so I was just very, very worried as to how I was going to fare when I got home without an automatic bed to raise me up and take me down and do all what the hospital bed was doing. But that's also part of the process of recovering. You just have to go home, walk around, but you know, not exert yourself too much obviously, but still getting some exercise so that you feel better. I got home. At this point, I still couldn't bathe myself. I couldn't really do much myself. Thankfully, I had my mom and I had Elo. They were the two people that were taking care of everything, taking care of heaven, taking care of me. Like my mom was the one who had to do everything for me, like bathe me, help me wear my outfit. She did this for about a week before I was like, you know what? Thank you. I'm going to force myself to do it. I got tired of her having to do it for me and I started doing it myself. Even through all this, I still had to go for hospital appointments. I had to be going to the hospital every other day as well to get the site of the incision cleaned and changed and dressed, all to avoid getting infected. Eventually, I was taught how to do it myself at home. The recovery for me took about 6 weeks. It was also after 6 weeks that I was able to take a full proper shower. All of this obviously while navigating the newborn phase, waking up in the middle of the night, breastfeeding, pumping, just doing everything that comes with having a new baby. You will think that that is enough, but we live in a society where it can never be enough for people. We live in a society where when you have a baby, some people's first priority is to know how you gave birth to that baby so they can congratulate you accordingly. Vaginal or CS, and then they hear that it's CS and it's like, oh, almost like it's a taboo, almost like you've done something wrong, almost like it wasn't a procedure that saved the life of the mother and child. almost like it wasn't. And until I became a mother, I didn't realize how extremely fucked up these things were. I was very oblivious. I'm not gonna lie. I remember in my DMs one day, some lady texted me and she was like, yeah, she had a C-section as well. And she's just grateful that her husband didn't tell his mother that she had a C-section. Some women even go as far as lying about it because they don't want to be judged by society. They would rather lie about it. There's this lady that I came across on Instagram. Now, this lady is a young, vibrant lady. She does very well for herself. She married well. For a while after she got married, she didn't have a baby. And obviously, whenever she would post pictures of herself, maybe doing whatever she's doing, people will be camping under her comments, obviously, the way we are, reminding her that she hasn't had a child yet. After a while, this woman comes on the internet to announce that she actually was pregnant, but she lost the child at birth. She did countless IVFs. One of them actually eventually worked, and she got pregnant, carried the baby to term, tried to have the baby, but unfortunately, the baby passed. Come and see people in the comments. Oh, I'm so sorry. Come and see doctors. Oh, you should not have had the baby vaginally. You should not even have carried the baby to term since it's IVF. You should have just opted for a C-section, this, that, and the third. This is the same woman that before she had a baby, people were in her comments shaming her for not having a baby, not knowing that she had been trying IVFs after IVF procedures until one eventually worked. If this woman had had a C-section, like people were in the comments advising her to, people would probably have still had an issue with the fact that she had the baby via C-section. Nothing you ever do is enough, despite how much a woman goes through to bring life into the world. And that's one of the reasons why I hate the term C-section mom. I really, really do. You're a mother who had her child via C-section. The end. That doesn't mean you should. I don't think you should label. You don't see people who had the child by saying they're vaginal moms. And that's why if you're somebody watching this and you have someone in your life that has just had a baby, put the diapers down. Pick up something for the mother. Or you can pick up the diapers and something for the mother. Pick up something she would like. A nice dress, her favorite food, flowers, whatever. A card, something, skincare products, something to just, here, you've done a fantastic job. Send money to her account. Use this to buy whatever you like for yourself. For a job well done, you've tried. Because my dear, it is not easy. It is not. And that's why you hear of some women, they would abandon their children and run away. And so when I think about it and like why we are the way we are when it comes to C-sections and why we are so judgmental of like women who have had this procedure done, I've just summed it up to the fact that we are hypocrites. Yeah, the biggest hypocrites. We know how to judge things until it happens to us. It will never happen to me or this, sister, and third until it happens to you or your sister or your daughter or someone in your family or someone close to you. Then your tune changes. We're hypocrites. It's so easy to judge. I've done it before. When I'm married, I'll be wearing PJs every single day. I would always have my hair done. I would never lose myself. This, that, and the third. Just because you had a baby, you're not tying wrapper up and down. I said it before. Now that I'm a mother, if you ask me how I feel about these things, my tune has changed. I will tell you, please, if it is wrapper you want to tie it, let breeze blow your body because it is not easy. I only like to carry chubby, healthy babies. I don't like to carry babies that look like they are unkept, this, that, and the third. If you ask me now, my tune has changed. Some women are doing their best. But the baby is not eating. Or the baby is sick. Or the baby just has rashes, or the baby has catarrh. It is not the mother's fault. From the outside looking in, what we see is, oh, this baby is so unkept. Where's her mother? What's her mother doing? What's his mother doing? His mother isn't taking care of him. It's so easy to judge when you are on the outside, when you're not wearing the person's shoes. The other day, I got this very useless comment on my video. I'm not gonna lie, in that vlog, there were times when I wanted to like zoom into the vlog because obviously my stomach is still a bit big, okay? And I was a bit self-conscious, but I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I left the video as it was because this is my reality. I'm not going to sugarcoat what I look like. I'm not going to try and zoom in and hide myself because I don't have a flat stomach yet. Someone was in the comments talking about, oh, don't let anybody deceive you. You can start working on your body 1 week after having a C-section. And then followed it up with a backhanded compliment like, but don't worry, I'm sure you will soon snap back. I wanted to ignore the comment. I was this close to just being like, you know what, it's not worth it. But I had to go and respond to the person because it is ignorant comments like that that make women hide. It is ignorant comments like that that make people fall into depression. So I had to respond to the person and let them know that they had just dropped an ignorant comment. Because what do you mean? If you are a woman who has had a C-section and you know what it feels like to have a C-section, you will not be telling me to be walking on my stomach 1 week after surgery. Are you serious? Your stomach is the least of your concerns. You must be deluded. It's so easy to sit back and judge. Oh, she's lazy. Why can't she have a child normally like every other woman? Until it is your child that has a complication, right? And the only way to save her and the baby is through a C-section. And then you will hear the tune change. Well, we thank God that she and the baby are alive. The hypocrisy is insane. And that's why I have come to realize that as a woman, especially in today's society, you have to learn how to pat yourself on the back. If you're constantly waiting for people's validation, you will always be unhappy. You can never satisfy human beings. Do what's best for you. The world will adjust. When it just comes to motherhood, in fact, not aside motherhood, just anything, it will never be enough. There will always be somebody who feels like, yeah, she could have done better. She could have done it this way. She could have done it that way. Oh, that's not the best way. This would have been the best way. At the end of the day, do what's best for you. Even if there are no complications and you just want a C-section, if that is what you want, go for it. I'm just going to end this by saying that at the end of the day, however way you brought your child into the world, vaginal, C-section, we're mothers. Nobody is superior to anybody because of how they brought their child into the world. Nobody should be shamed because of how they brought their child into the world. It makes no sense. We're doing our best, experiencing things for the first time, or the second time, or the third time. At the end of the day, we're women. Mothers, young girls who have brought a child, children into the world, and we all deserve to be celebrated regardless of how we brought our child into the world. It should not even matter, in my opinion. The most important thing is that we are here. We have life. We've brought life. That in itself should be celebrated. And if you are in a place where you're not being celebrated, as unfortunate as it is, please pat yourself on the back. You've done a fantastic job. It is no easy feat. Don't let anybody who hasn't walked a mile in your shoes tell you where and how it hurts. Now me know what's in my eyes see before I take call myself mama. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Or should I say thanks for coming to Momdates? If you got to the end of this video, comment purple so I know you got to the end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a very big fat thick thumbs up. Subscribe if you aren't subscribed already. Let me know your thoughts. I want to know your thoughts. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear what you have to say in the comments. Thanks for watching Momdates, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.